Hey, happy Sunday, guys. I am headed back from showing some homes and just wanted to have a little bit of a conversation about you and some of the conversation we were having. And I love talking about this because there's a commonality between a lot of the home buyers and home sellers that I've been working with over the last 6 months, and probably what a lot of you are having questions about. Without getting into the interest rate thing, because there's a lot with that, and I know that there's a lot of unknown variables with that, including the election, including any potential Fed rate drops over the next, through the end of the year or even into the spring. There's a lot of questions about that. I want to talk about the why of home buying. Really, how do you make the decision to buy and sell another home? What are the processing, or what is the processing that you're doing to come to a final decision? And I'm not talking about the what or the how. The what being what you're going to buy. I know I got to have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath in a certain school district in a certain area of town. I'm not talking about that because some of those variables are obviously important. And I'm also not talking about the how you're going to pay for it. Those are important conversations, but they're very specific to each individual and family that's making that kind of decision. What I want to talk about is the why, because I think that's something that's missed. We know that home buying and selling, for home buyers and sellers, there are three things that drive home prices, or, there's three conversations, there's 3 points that we talk about with home buyers and sellers when we're talking about the specifics of the home, where it is, those kind of things, called price, condition, and location. Obviously, we know what the price is, but what's the condition of the home and where is it located? Located could be anything from inside of a school district that you want to be in, all the way to I don't want to be near anybody and I want to have 10 acres between me and the next house, right? There's a lot that goes into price, condition, and location. But what I want to talk about is the why. And these are factors that I think a lot of people don't talk about, but I want to talk about it specifically from 4 specific areas. The first one is your family relationships. Where are they? Do you have family that you need to be thinking about? Like, my family lives in Northeast Texas in Paris. I have some family in Crowley, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I will buy a home right next to them or in Paris. And it may mean that I know a lot of people want a little bit of space from their family. I'm being really nice. But in other words, you might not want to live in the same town. You might not want to live on the same street. You might want to live on the same street because you have a baby and you want grandma to help sometimes watch the kiddos. And that's all, that is totally okay. You have to make those kind of decisions because family is important. And as you get older, you will process these more and more. I know we did, because we lived all over. But making that decision, even the ones that we did where we moved farther away, we still thought about our family. This is going to have an impact, right? Grandkids are going to be farther away from grandma and grandpa. I'm going to be farther away from my mom. Jenny's going to be farther away from her family. All those kind of things, right? But I think a lot of times we look at these other lists of things, the price, condition, the location, that kind of stuff. We're just making that decision. We're making the price decision. But there's more to it. And family is obviously one of them. Another one, the second one, is where do you work? If you want land, let's say something more than 10 acres, which I've been looking at a lot of that recently, even more so interesting this year than last year. It's very interesting. But I've shown everything from 10 acres in the last 2 days to 22 acres to 14 acres, 15 acres. 2 weeks ago, I showed 85 acres. I was looking at some properties almost a year ago at 200 acres. So, and some of those are developers, but on the homeowner side, there's a reason that they're making they're processing that possibility. But if you work in downtown Fort Worth or downtown Dallas, or if you work in Frisco, but you want to live in Waxahachie or Justin or Nakona, it's going to be a drive. So some of that comes into play. You can't ignore it. Don't not think about it. I remember, as a lot of people were moving in from out of state, I remember one couple in particular who was looking, they worked in Rockwall, but they were looking at homes in Van Alstyne area, or farther north, actually. I think it was actually more west, but it's been a long time. But I remember it was at least an hour and a half drive for them to get to work. And they thought, but Alan, we're saving $300 a month on the mortgage. And I went, yeah, but you're going to spend that much on gas and tolls and be on the road. So does that come into play or not? And I know a lot of people, like my job is driving. From 2019 to 2022, my driving radius was 4,700 square miles. I added it up and looked at it. They were all relationships. They were all people that wanted to work with me, and a lot of them were new construction. But it was a huge area, and you find yourself going, man, I'm driving everywhere. And we actually lived kind of mid cities in between Fort Worth and Dallas, so it was a little more convenient for me than if we had lived in like where I live now, which is in North McKinney, almost Prosper. And you said, hey, Alan, I want you to go help me find a house in Midlothian. We actually lived in Midlothian briefly for about, I guess, a couple of years. My brother lived there for a long time. So know the area very well, know the schools actually. But that would be, from where I work and live now, that would be almost an hour and a half. So just the drive time alone, as a person who is working, I don't know if I'd want to be on the road that much. You have small kids. Do you want to work an 8-hour day and then have another hour and a half on the road plus another hour and a half on the back end? Now your day is not 8 hours, it's 11. And hours are things you cannot get back with family, ever. So you need to process that part of it. What about your friends? The people you care about, the relationships. Do you have natural people that you just hang out with a lot? And if you do, if that is important to you and you decide to move out into the country where they are not, those relationships will change. Those friendships will not be the same as they were. There's no way around it. As much as you want it to, that will change. And truth is, and I've gone through these stages myself, when we had really small children, we had certain relationships. When we had kids in middle school and high school, those relationships changed again. When my kids went to college, those relationships changed once again. And now that our kids are now out and we're empty nesters, our relationship, my wife and my relationship with other people has also changed. And the relationships that we have, because you're at different stages and the conversations that you have and the things that are important to you change over time. And all of those things are perfectly okay. You just need to process it. Because if you end up somewhere where you absolutely love the country where you are, but the space where you are, the acreage where you are, but you don't have the same friends that you did, or you have trouble making new relationships, might be something to think about. So the last one I wanted to share is, what are your goals? What are your 5-year, 10-year, you don't have kids yet, what could that look like for you going forward? And you may not know these answers, and that is actually okay. It's okay not to know those answers, but it is something to think about. The most common question I ask my clients, especially new clients, on homes that they're buying is this your forever home? And that answer is really important, because if your answer is, Alan, this is a starter home for me, which the average homeowner still only stays in their home 7 years. It used to be 4 to 7. I think it's now like 7 to 10. And some of that is because of COVID and the interest rates that people are locked into. A lot of factors with that. If that's the case, you need to process living there like that. Because if you're trying to buy your forever home right now, and that forever home would cost you $2 million right now, versus buying something that's a starter home for you that might be between 500 and 700 right now, and just being, hey, let's get into it, let's get rolling, let's start building equity, then that's part of how you make the decision, not just of where you're going to live, but how much you're going to spend, how you're going to mentally process being in that house. Because if you are looking for your forever home and you believe that you need to be at that stage, like at my age, we might need to start looking for a forever home. I don't know yet. We're still thinking about all that. But our kids have not had grandkids yet. Y'all need to get started on that. But when they have grandkids, it's going to change our processing again, like it should. So when you're making these long-term goals and dreams and future goals, decisions, you should be processing that part of it, because that starter home might have it will likely have a better interest rate if it's a new construction versus if your forever home is going to have to be custom built on 20 acres or 10 acres in Northeast Texas somewhere or out of state, wherever that is. Those are different conversations than just sitting down with a lender. These four things are much bigger to me personally when I'm having conversations with people. And I think it's why I love having more of a relationship driven real estate business and being a relationship based realtor over being a transactional realtor. I don't do a lot of generated leads because I become invested in people. And so your dreams go into my processing of how I'm looking for homes for you. And as I give you advice and as I talk to you about those things. And fortunately, my wife and I both have been through many of the stages of life so far. We can bounce ideas off of other people because we've been in those stages. But especially when it comes to home ownership, when it comes to building wealth, is it better to consider, if you're thinking long-term legacy with your personal wealth, is it better just to buy a smaller home that's much more affordable and start thinking about buying investment properties? Is it buy land? Land is there's not any more of it. It's a huge commodity because there's not any more being made. At least not in ways that you could build a house on it. You go to Hawaii where the volcanoes are erupting, and it's making lava flows and it hardens into new land, but you're not building a house on top of it. At least not anytime soon. So there's not new land. There's not new dirt coming in somewhere. So you got to think about those things. I hope that you'll process those four things. Your mom and dad, kids, family relationships, where you're working, what is your work-life balance going to look like? What about your friends, your relationships with those people? What about your goals and your dreams? You should put those on the paper and think about it because they drive your decisions. They probably drive your decisions more than you know. They probably drive your how much you want to spend on a home or where you're buying that home more than you realize. So process it. I'd love to be a sounding board for you. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's process what it could look like to you and how it affects your home buying process. I appreciate you guys so much. I just got done showing, like I said, I just got done showing land with some really close friends that I've known for almost 30 years. They might be selling, they might be buying, they might have to sell families' homes to get them all together. All of those things are important to me. And I love the fact that I've been blessed by building a business that I don't feel like I have to have desperation. So I love that part of it. So I can truly just sit with you and go, here's where I've been, and let you talk about the things that are important to you, and let's process those things together. You guys are great. I appreciate all the opportunity to serve you and care for you. Let's go have coffee. Let me know when you're available. If you're in the Prosper McKinney area, let me know when you want to go grab coffee or breakfast. let's go do it. We'll go this week. Let me know when you're available, and we'll go find a coffee shop somewhere nearby and sit down and shoot the breeze. We'll shoot something, but I'll say the breeze right now. So we'll shoot it, and we'll talk about all of it and see what's important to you and what your goals are in life. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Let me know if I can help in any way.